All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about my power rankings for this week, ranking my top 5 teams after week 14. So let's jump right into that. And I did say you might be a little bit disappointed by how the rankings are, and I will explain at the end. Well, you'll kind of figure it out by the end if you've been paying attention. So we got the Steelers at 5. Another win. This team just doesn't lose. Well, they did lose to the Browns, a few weeks ago, but still, I mean, they're 10-3. Who expected the Steelers to be 10-3 at this point? I mean, I expected them to finish with a winning record, but not 10-3, and we still got 4 games to go. Mike Tomlin once again not gonna have a losing season. Russell Wilson, he's been playing really well since they made the switch. And you got the defense with T.J. Watt. It's just this team, and they won on Sunday without George Pickens, and he actually might not play this week against the Eagles. So that's going to be a tough loss there. But they were able to still figure it out without him. Mike Williams made some big plays. The running game worked. Pat Freiermuth has been getting more involved. He's going to have to continue to step up in the absence of George Pickens. They got to use Pat Freiermuth more because Pat Freiermuth is a good weapon to have. But this team is playing good football right now. This is a good football team. Like I said, they can beat anybody and they can lose to anybody. And this is really the toughest part of their schedule because you have the Eagles you got to deal with, you got the Ravens, and then you got the Chiefs. These are your next 3 games. This is really going to show people what you are made of. And are they going to be able to step up and, accept the challenge? I don't think they're going to go 0-3 their next 3 games. I think they could beat all 3 of these teams. I really do. I mean, they beat the Ravens already. But the Eagles, there's, some things I don't like with them right now, but I still think the Eagles are a very good team and they're one of the best teams in the NFL. But I think the Steelers could go in there and beat them. And the Chiefs, I think the Steelers could definitely beat them. And I can't wait for that game. That game is exactly 2 weeks from today. So I'm really looking forward to that matchup. But yeah, I got them at 5. They're playing good football. Then at 4, still got the Chiefs at 4. Once again, another victory that they squeaked by. It wasn't a double doink or anything. The game-winning field goal. It hit off the upright and ricocheted in. Listen, they're 12-1. All right? I just don't know what to make of them right now. Now, they keep talking about how the offense is getting close. Now, I think the offense will click when they get to the playoffs. I really do think that they're fooling us once again where they don't play well here, and then we get to the they don't play well in the regular season. We get to the postseason, and then they flip that switch, and then they're off and running. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see them in the Super Bowl again. And I did bring this up, though. The concerns are pertaining to the offensive line. The offensive line might be a problem because Mahomes was taking some hits on Sunday against the Chargers. You do not want to see Patrick Mahomes get hurt. If he ends up getting hurt, Chiefs got no shot to do anything this year. They don't. But that's probably the one thing that I worry about. Because I do think, Isaiah Pacheco is just coming back. DeAndre Hopkins has played well for them. Travis Kelce can turn it up in the postseason like he did last year. I mean, and the defense will step up when it needs to in the postseason. They're going to get right for the playoffs. But the offensive line, I think, is an issue that they got to figure it out. But they're 12-1, and right now they're in the driver's seat to once again claim home field advantage. At 3, I got the Buffalo Bills. I mean, despite their loss to the Rams, look, Josh Allen, he had 6 touchdowns in that game, 6 total touchdowns, 3 rushing and 3 passing. He's the MVP right now. This is still a good football team. They went up against a very good Rams team, and, the Rams have a ton of playmakers on that side of the ball. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little concerned about the Bills' defense after that performance. I mean, it's not the first time that the Bills' defense got shredded this year. I mean, we saw what happened when they played the Ravens, earlier in the season. So, that's a bit of a concern. But you know what, Josh Allen in that offense, they could put up points with anybody, and they're going to have to once again when they take on the Lions in Detroit, which that could be the game of the year. I mean, Sunday, the game against the Rams, that was the game of the year. That was the best game of the weekend by far. And I thought that Packers Lions. I mean, Packers Lions got us off to a good start, but I looked at that as the best game of the weekend. But Rams Bills exceeded that and more because of just how many points were scored. But yeah, I mean, look, that loss, you could point to the defense, but and also the punt getting blocked as well, that led to 7 points. That also was a key moment in the game as well. But Josh Allen, they almost pulled it off. They almost pulled off the comeback. He was spectacular, and they're getting ready for this stretch run here. I mean, they got the division locked up, but they got to make sure that they keep this number 2 seed here. I mean, there's still an outside chance they could catch the Chiefs, but I don't really know. I don't think it's going to happen. Because I thought, I mean, if the Chargers pulled off that win, maybe. But I think the Chiefs are getting home field. It's going to come down to, right now, it looks like it's either going to be the Steelers or the Bills for the number 2 seed. And the Bills want that number 2 seed. So, we'll see what happens on Sunday when they take on the Lions. They still got the Jets to play again. And they still haven't played the Patriots. So those are 2 games that they should win. They should beat the Jets. And like I said, you got the toughest game left on your schedule in the regular season. That's against the Lions. So who knows? Maybe they hand the Lions their second loss. Because that was a matchup we got a couple years ago on Thanksgiving. The Bills won that. But it's different now. So really looking forward to that game. But yeah, I still got the Bills at 3. And then at 2, still got the Eagles. Picked up another win against the Panthers. It wasn't pretty. Jalen Hurts only had 108 yards passing, but Saquon Barkley, continues to run the football well. The defense played well when it had to. This is still a very good team. And, once they get this passing game going, it's going to be tough to stop them. Because I think that's ultimately what's going to be the difference between the Eagles winning the Super Bowl or at least getting to the Super Bowl or not. I mean, Saquon Barkley is not going to have a big game every single week. There's going to be a time where, it's going to be up to Jalen Hurts and the pass catchers to make plays. And I've said that. Now, I know I did bring up, you're not going to win a playoff game where your quarterback throws for barely over 100 yards. But then after the show, I said, well, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, what did he complete? Like 3 passes in a game once? Or in the NFC Championship game against the Packers. But that's because Raheem Mostert had 200 yards rushing and like 4 rushing touchdowns. If Saquon Barkley's going to do that, then you can win playoff games like that. But the Eagles need to improve this passing game. They need to they got to get it going. And they have the talent to do it. They do. They got 2 number 1 wide receivers. Now losing Dallas Goedert is tough. That's a big piece on that offense. But they got to get it going, because that could be a problem in the playoffs. If a team is shutting down Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts is going to have to make plays. And the other thing too is if the defense, is giving up points left and right. If Saquon Barkley's not a factor, if the defense is not playing well, it's going to be up to Jalen Hurts and that passing game to get it going. But again, that's hypotheticals. We got to see how some of these games play out. The Panthers. They had a chance to beat the Eagles. They did not. And the Eagles are 11-2. And look, they are still right behind the Lions for the number 1 seed. They can still get it. But right now, they're pretty much locked in at the 2. I think that's what's going to end up happening. They're going to get the 2. And then the winners of, the NFC West and the NFC South are going to get the 3 and the 4. So, yeah, no, the Eagles are at number 2. That they deserve to be there, but there's some concerns there. And then at number 1, no surprise, is the Detroit Lions. They continue to win games. Dan Campbell is a little bit too aggressive last Thursday against the Packers, and that could definitely cost them. And that's been a talking point all week since that game happened. I mean, going forward on your own 30, I mean, yeah, if you end up getting it, you look like a genius. But if you don't, you don't look like that. So, and that did happen. Now, fortunately, the Lions still won the game, but that's what costed you in the playoff game last year against the 49ers. So they got to be careful there. They got to be careful there. Now, again, they're a good enough team where, hey, they're going to do it and, they believe they're going to get it. But you don't want that costing your season, because that's something that if that costs them in the playoffs, Lions fans are going to lose it. And I love Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's great. But got to be smarter in certain situations. And, that's me saying that. I'm not a head coach. But it's a big risk. It's a big risk you're taking. But again, if you get it, you look like a genius. So, yeah, having said all that, though, the Lions are at number 1. And to run through the top 5 again, Steelers at 5, Chiefs at 4, Bills at 3, Eagles at 2, and then the Lions at 1. So if you did notice, it's the same top 5 from last week. Now, I was debating on whether or not to put the Vikings in, because it's very close. I mean, we'll see how this week goes. I think there will be changes after this week, depending on what happens. But I still kept the Steelers in it. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think, though. What would your top 5 be? Let me know in the comments. And that's pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.